Hey everyone. Oh, just trying to get my screen to go straight. So today we are doing an episode of REI Behind the Scenes. Oh, I have this terrible shadow behind me. Yeah, there we go. We are doing an episode of REI Behind the Scenes. REI Behind the Scenes, we get to hear about our guest speakers' projects that they've worked on, and we get to just hear about how it went. So we get to hear them run their numbers. If they're on site, they show us what they've done. And the most important part of the show is we get to hear about the different problems they encounter and how they solve them. And if they're new, then we also get to hear about what they've learned from it. So I find this a really fun topic because we all want to learn from each other's mistakes. So let me just see if she is on. Yeah, I can see that our guest speaker is here. Just give me a second, guys, to invite her.
There we go. Oh, and we see her food.
Yeah, that's my food. Hold on a second. Let me try.
Hey, Jennelyn, how are you?
I'm okay, good. Thank you. Finally, we met our schedule.
I know we've been trying to get a show for so long, so finally we got one. I'm excited to hear about your project. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you for welcoming me here. It's
Awesome.
been a pleasure.
Awesome. So now let's just so the viewers get to know a little bit about you. Let's just start off with just your experience in real estate. Anything you'd like to share as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor, if you can just let us know where you're at right now.
Yeah, yes, thank you for letting me tell my a short story, but I just want to get to the start where I'm coming from and why I'm doing this. So just a little bit background where I came from. So I came to Canada way back in 2007, and I bought my principal residence way back in 2009. So when I was about to refinance my property at the time in 2015, I said to my realtor, I want to buy a bigger house. And then my realtor raised his eyebrow and he said to me, why do you need a bigger house? It's just enough for you. The kids will be leaving you. They will have their own place. They will have their own pad. And it's hard to clean, right? So why not buy a second house that would be your second income property? So that would be your retirement in the future or retirement money in the future. So I kind of sit down and think about it. Yeah, that's possible. So I took the leap of faith of buying a second property, and I was so happy because right after the closing, I have a tenant already in place. So there was no gap on payment for the rent because that was already in place when we closed the property and the next day they move in. And I was so happy because you know what? When they move in, I look at their furnitures. Oh my gosh, their furnitures are immaculate. It's much better than my own furniture. So I said they're really like a great tenant to be with and they would be there for a long term. So after 1 year, they got into like a messy divorce, a couple, and they decided to part ways. And that's the time that they stopped paying. And that time me put in a deep moment that I had to reflect where would I get the second payment for the mortgage. And it's hard to really like reach out to them. They're not answering the phone. There's no means of communication. So I reached out to an organization that would help me because I don't know how to handle my business. And I didn't educate myself enough to be ready on this business. So that's one thing that I've learned right now, a hard learn that in any business that you went into, you need to do your research and treat it like a business. So I found a real estate group organization based in Oakville that helped me a lot and gave me guidance on how to go to the LTV, how to navigate through the process. And sure enough, before the sheriff came to the place, he was gone already, and all my arrears are paid by them. So long story short, I did educate myself, enrolled to the program. I networked to the different people. I bought properties from them. They coached me a lot to get ready to my next property to purchase. And then I met different people that who have different pursuits, who have a higher goals. And that helped me a lot to where I am right now. So a bit of my strategy and portfolio. So I own small units, bigger units, bigger than 5 units. And I kind of like diversify now my portfolio to a short term and midterm rental. The reason being is I want to enjoy, life is so short, I want to enjoy it. And I want to buy to the places that I wanted to live in a short term. So that's the reason I buy to different places. But my property are all over Canada. I do have luxury condos as well in the Philippines for a short-term rental that's going to be finished next year. But I started investing in my own backyard here in Toronto, and I still keep that property up to this day. I said to myself, that's my retirement money, probably my lifestyle when I retire. And then I diversified my portfolio and going out to the different places like Niagara, Windsor, Sudbury, Timmins, Alberta, and British Columbia. And I'm
Awesome.
still,
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And I think one of the great points just off the bat that you've said is that, you had all these problems come up with your very first one and you didn't give up. Because I feel like a lot of people will just, oh my God, this is so stressful. I never want to do this again. And just, I'm going to sell it off. I never want to do this again. And it's sad because it's like you learn all these things that you could do, 10 times better on the next one because you went through these problems and know what not to do. So I think that's great that you started it this way. So which project will you be talking to us about today?
which one do you want? So the one that I just recently closed last April 28th. So that one is a 6 units in Sudbury. So I'm currently filling up tenants for that one. And that one is almost like a turnkey. And it's not renovated. Totally, you don't have any thing to do with it except fill up the tenants. So I have a target rent for the following so that I could meet and refinance it within 6 months to 1 year. So I could return the money to our investors.
Mhm. Okay, and so how much did you buy that property for?
Yep. So I bought a property. Do I say the cap rate as well too?
Sure, yeah, you can share whatever information you want to share.
Okay. So I bought the property at 1.1 million. And it's really like, that's in the northern part of Ontario. And when I started investing way back in 2019, like, you could buy properties, no bidding war, and cap rate is around like 8% to begin with, even 9% to begin with.
In
And then you
Sudbury,
do a
you're
little,
talking about, right?
yeah, in Sudbury. But now, when looking back, like I have bought like probably 16 doors in Sudbury from early 2019 up to this date. And not total 16, probably 22 doors, including this one that's new. So I realized that the cap rate are really getting tight to the point that I came up with an 8% cap rate, then 7. And then the third one that I bought for an 8 unit that closed last February, that was a 5.8 cap rate. But this one is a 5.2 cap rate. But it's still, there's still a big lift on that. It's just like, that's a good thing on advantage on us because the appreciation have helped a lot. So with the following rents, once it's met to the market rent, we're over the market rent a little bit. The cap rate will be around like, close to around like 6, but at the same time, we're able to refinance it and get the money, 100% of the money of the investor and a little extra money on the side to pour into the next project to
That's
begin with.
awesome. That's great. And so even Sudbury is far for you. So how did it feel for you to just even start investing over there? Like, was it
Yeah.
scary or like how did you make yourself feel comfortable investing in a place that is not far, far away, but it's definitely a drive.
I know, eh? It's not like I feel like scared because like my background is I used to work in American company back in the Philippines as a market and product research. So I used to do all the market research, like what all the fundamentals, like in real estate, there's nothing difference between like, doing research on a product, where's the next market sale and where's the place where we can sell this product or what's the potential and specification that the consumer are wanting to. So it's nothing different from real estate. So always my guideline are three fundamentals. First is the population, infrastructure, and then the jobs. So I go with those three basic fundamentals. And so that's the reason why I went to Sudbury. And at the time, I've seen the potential there because when I look at their jobs and salary, I was right, extremely high. And people there that are working are extremely skilled. They're either like engineer, nurses, or doctors. There's even one area there that the salary on that field was ranging like from 85,000 to 100,000, similar to Ottawa when you go on a certain area where average household income is almost like over 100,000. So that's where I look at, and that's where potential. And also, like, I also look because right now all the bigger cities like Sudbury, Niagara, and other parts of GTA are saturated already. So I look for a certain outskirt because those cities are so expensive. So people are looking a little bit probably closer to the metropolitan around like 10 to 20 minutes. So you could see the population growth there that people are like, it's not expensive to buy as compared to the metropolitan, but it's still closer, probably like, 15 to 30 minutes. So that's where I see potentials on it. And don't be scared to look for those outskirts cities because those are really like, I have seen the big appreciation that comes over the years of span of from 2020 to 2022.
Awesome. Great advice. And I just realized I totally got off topic because we're still at the numbers part. So so let's continue with the numbers. So and actually before we get to the numbers, just because you said cap rate, you want to just tell the viewers that just quickly explain what cap rate is and why you use cap rate?
Yeah, for 5 units and above. So that's the measure that you put into like, multifamilies. It's not more, it's a better explain it is like, different cities has different cap rate and different measures. And the two components of the cap rate is they measure it based on the income of the property. And second is based on the comparables around the area, apple to apple. So it's not like residentials that you solely base it on how much oil is sold on that area. So commercial, residential, 5 units and up, you base it on two factors where you determine and you divided it to make the cap rate in general in the particular city.
Awesome. And so what did that come out with cash flow and stuff? So what is the cash flow like for that property now?
Yeah, so the cash flow like for that property is I measure it based on per unit. So when you have like probably the cash flow right now, we're expecting to get per unit is at least minimum of 300, and then that's infinite. It could go now our based on the market rent and projections that we have, we could have it like between like 300 to 600 per unit.
And this is what it's going to be cash flowing now, or is this when it's after refi?
This one is cash flowing now. So we have like 600, but the 200 is once you refinance it.
Which is a point that I wanted to get to because I think a lot of, especially newer real estate investors, don't always take into consideration that once you refi, your mortgage is obviously bigger, and you want to also make sure that that you still are cash flowing or at least breaking even, depending on the strategy, but at least that or just understand where you stand afterwards, because there are lots of people that don't take that into consideration, that they'll,
Yeah,
refi, and maybe, for example, like in your case, I don't think you'll be doing any renovations or anything, right? You're just going to wait
not
for
at all.
appreciation and then just take out the money, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like for me, I've seen it like, per unit, once you refinance it, as long as you have, that's the reason why more doors is much better, because it can compensate, like, you're just maintaining one building and not multiple buildings. So that lowers the cost. So if you have a standard of like $250 per door, and that income is infinite, because, like, every year it goes up, the rent, and sometimes there's a turnover of tenant. Typically, my tenant profile are younger and professionals, and their turnover is between, like, on the average of 1 to 2 years. So
Hmm.
at that time, you have already projections of the market rent, and at the same time the add on to it. It's not something like, the LTV that is like sort of like 1.2. You're not tied up with that, because the tenant profile and turnover is between average of 1 to 2 years, because they want to own those tenants profile. They want to own their own home. It's just like, the segue for them to start to live and then move on to buy their own house as well. Why I say, like, $250 per door? Because I think when you go for a 5 units and up, this also breaks down to your goal. Like, how many doors do you really need to retire? Like, for example, let's just draw out a number. So you need like 5,000 uh, net per month in order for you to live comfortably and all other expenses that you have right now. So how many dollars, like, you divide that by, or you multiply that by the income, and get the number of doors that you can have.
100%. Great point. And there's another point that you said that I wanted to, oh, infinite returns. I just wanted to again recap that, because I think that's an important point. That same thing maybe people don't get, is that once you're able to refinance the property, because I think this is the part you were talking about, right? When you're able to refinance the property and you take all that money out and you're still cash flowing afterwards, that's
Yeah.
where we consider that infinite returns, because now you have no money in the deal and you're
Mhm.
still cash flowing. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because it is also great when that happens, when you're able to do that. Especially even better is when not only you're able to take out your money, but like you said, you'll be able to take out more than that. And even more amazing is we don't get taxed on that. So it's always great when these kind of opportunities come where we can take out our money, because I mean, as a business it just works well, right? Because as a business we want to continually invest our money. So now you take out the money, and I'm sure you'll be investing it on the next project once you get that money out.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to break down the infinite returns, because there's three parts of it. First is cash on cash, is the cash flow. Second is the mortgage pay down. And third is the appreciation.
Hmm.
So depending on the market performance, and we have seen, like, even up to the pandemic time and situation that interests are increasing, we can still see significant increase on appreciation. So those are the three parts that make your infinite, like, your return infinite.
Awesome, great point. So where do we, okay, so, and what are you expecting it to be refinanced at?
Once we filled up the tenants, so we're looking at between like 30 to 90 days. So we just closed on last April. So we have tenant already in place for the 2 bedroom. So our target rent for that one was 1,500. We were able to get it at 1,800. So that's like, 300 plus,
Hmm.
based on our target market trend. So we are still continuously filling up the remaining five. So our target, there's a lot of like inquiry as well too, surprisingly. And I thought that people are just wanted to, like, move out and go to different places, but they stick to that existing area in Sudbury. And there's a lot of like tractions coming in. We just need to screen it carefully for all the tenants that we will be putting in the property.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's another great point. Definitely screening your tenants is very important. And it's great that you're taking the time to do it because there's lots of people that get very anxious and you kind of start, even in real estate, because of how prices of houses are going up so high, I think most scenarios are very the same, right? Especially as real estate investors, we kind of get anxious because we're like, either we want to get those tenants in because we want to start making our money or want to buy that property to get our next deal going. But then it's like not breaking your rules and sticking to
Mhm.
what it is that you are like you're supposed to do, and so that you do get, for example, that good tenant, you do get that good property that's going to give you what you're looking for. Because I feel like once you break your rules and you
Mhm.
don't follow things, that's when problems start coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's always been my principle and values. Like you go by the right way. You are responsible owner, or I would say responsible landlord. You don't break the rules. You do the proper procedures. And I guess the key there is the proper communications to the tenants because of course, let's be a problem solver. So there's always be a problem. It's like a business. There's always like some issues coming in. But if you're ready to be a problem solver and you're able to mitigate the risk and talk to your clients or customers, I don't think a problem will not be solved. So that one is, I guess, it's a quick solution for like, for between the relationship of the owner and the tenant living in your property.
100% agree. And so like that, talking about the different problems. So you talked about Sudbury, that it's, far away, and anything else that in this project that was a concern to you, or certain, or like even talking about finding the tenants, what kind of problems have you encountered, or even just kinds of like what have you seen when you get you get the applications? Because I'm curious if you've been seeing similar things that what I've been seeing. Because I've also gone through like a month ago, I had to go find some tenants too. So I'm curious at how you're seeing the market right now for tenants.
Yeah, so the market for tenants in Sudbury is very dynamic. And I see a lot of like outsiders coming to Sudbury. There are like, skilled people, like even like new immigrants coming from different country and also international students coming from Asia. So those are the ones that we are encounter. Of course, we were not expecting it. That's the thing is, I guess for the international students or new immigrants is we don't have enough history to find like their character and their
Credit
requirements,
reports
yes,
and things
credit
like
report
that.
and all those things like similar to a normal Canadian or citizen living in Canada. So those are the kind of like that we have to find a specific way to address and identify if they are the right fit for the property. But so far, those people that we have already interviewed and have already gone through the screening process is really like deserving to be on that place because they're very responsible, they're very on time, they kept the place clean, and at the same time they have a sense of respect for individual.
That's great to hear. And so, like you were saying, since you're seeing a lot of international people coming through, what do you do then to make yourself feel comfortable with them staying in one of your properties, one of your units?
Yeah, so I have a dedicated team already that who measures that, and to the point, as an owner, we are the final decision. Once we gone through the process and they said, okay, we're ready to take this in, what's your decision, and bring up the documents. So far, and that's the key of having a good team, a property manager and a caretaker to take your role there physically is they make sure that they screen just like you and they gone through the proper procedures legally, whether to like, given authority and to like, being respectful to the public information of the potential tenants that will be living in the property.
Mhm. That's awesome. That's great. Who else actually for that specific project? Who else? Is it just property manager or anyone else that you have on the team that you, I guess maintenance, right? Or that might be property management
The
too?
trades like people, yeah, the trades. It's just like, my property manager and caretaker and maintenance guy are the same maintenance guy because my properties are either in the downtown Sudbury and outskirt of Sudbury. When I say outskirt of Sudbury, it could be like, 15 to 30 minutes away, but they're willing to go that far to check on my properties because we built that good rapport and relationship, and like, being our share, we pay them on time, we give them self-respect on their time, we honor their value, and most of all, like, we build that relationship, like, with a future projects that we're going to, because we know that we can trust them and they can trust us as well too.
That's great. And so, have you used the same people throughout all your other projects in Sudbury, or did you have to change them? Because I feel like that's also something that happens is, the people that you usually start with and like maybe your very past projects, you kind of have to go through a few to get to know what you're looking for in a property manager and finding, the right type of person. How was that process for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I should say it politically and at the same time diplomatically that I hire and fire people because it's just like, there are criteria that we don't stick with the principles and values. And we are not aligned of the intentions and goals for each other. So it's a tough uh, dealing when you are starting to get to know the city, but as you go on, it's like a trial and error until you find the right team that fit for you and the property.
I completely agree. And that comes, I think, with any kind of hiring of anyone.
Mhm.
It's true. I feel like, especially at the beginning, you kind of will go with almost whoever because you don't really know exactly what it is you're looking for, but you definitely do start learning after a while what it is that you want and look for a person, or like those core values, depending on, specifically, I would say with money partners or partners, that
Mhm.
core values start becoming a big part of it because if they're not treating the property the way you would want it to be treated, you start realizing that it's not going to work out. So
I
is there
know.
any specific things with the people that you did use in the past that you noticed, for example, you learned that you don't like and that you look for?
Yeah, like, for property manager, like, we have like a set given time, and then there are communications that were being deferred. And when we ever try to call, especially during emergency, you would hear them probably like, 1 to 2 days. So those are the things that are very critical, especially when you are trying to rent the place and you're trying to finish all the dealings and you don't get that level of feedback and respect as well too. And then with regards to the trade skill people, it's like, it's the timeline to begin with. Like, even though the timeline would not bell, I would not mean at least the proper communication that there are things that need to be adjusted, and you don't, like, you don't need to call their attention, or to wait for their feedback, or to make the initiation to, like, what's going on. But if they bring the solution at the same time, the proper communication, hey, we're not be able to meet this deadline for 30 days, we can stand it for 45 days. So what other solutions that we can do? So it always been like, good constant communication with each other, because I know I do accept that things may happen. Sometimes there are some issue that will be coming up, but at least the proper communication between the two party would be met.
Yeah, very good point. And it's very funny because a lot of people talk about it, but I think until you are in it, do you
Mhm.
really realize that, and it's both sides, right? I feel like as you are learning and doing this, you feel like you learn yourself, okay, what did I say to make them think that? And also with that, for example, if they're just not getting back to you, you're like, why is there this lack of communication? It's probably not going to work out. I need someone that, like you said, like comes to me with a problem, but with a solution too, or at least some options for solutions.
Yeah, I think in this business, you need to have three components. You must have a passion. you must have the humility and the patience.
Mm-hmm.
If those is,
100%.
it's hard to really, lose the temper, but you really have to deal with that situations, right? Professionally and diplomatically, I would say.
100%. Totally agree. And yeah, and like that, as long as people are communicating, um, and things are moving forward, that's you realize that is like probably like a very high level, very important thing there for you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy now with my power team. Start from the lawyers, mortgage brokers. Like when I do have a deal come into place, I just send it to them. They know me already. They know my partners. And then we have a constant communications with my trade skill people and property manager and even my partners, money partners and active partners in here. We are in this together. And that's the reason why I still like to continue buying properties in this area because now it's so much easier, to work. You have a power team in place. I know it takes time to find. It took me probably 1 year to really have the best team right now as compared to when I was starting because I have to spend time talking, interviewing to the different people, and you realize that they're not a good fit, and then and it takes time as well to find the good fit for your property. So, the next step is just to continue acquiring so that you could give jobs to your power team as well too, and they'll be happy and they'll be continue working with you. For me,
100,
rather.
100%. So that means that you'll still continue to be buying some properties in Sudbury. You're still gonna keep on looking there just to keep that power team going over there.
Yeah, so I continue and I extended actually in Timmins. So now I have a good power team there of trade skilled people and a property manager as well too to begin. So and there's even one time that I have sent my trade skilled person from Timmins to Sudbury to work on my property. So those level of communication and relationship that really touches my heart. I couldn't believe that there's still some such people like that would have delivered the respect and build that relationship to move forward because it helped him, it helped us as well. And it's a win-win situation for both of us. So now we always like thinking of having a job for them and they continue to work for us rather than giving them out to other work from other investors as well. At least we want to foster that relationship and continue giving them jobs and to help their families, to support their family.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah. It goes both ways, right? As if they're showing the appreciation, then obviously we also want to show the appreciation back and help with it whichever way we can. Because definitely it's like finding diamonds in a rough. When you find those really good ones, you do anything and everything to keep them, right?
I know, definitely, right? I know what
Yeah.
you mean there. So I said yes.
Yeah, you start like, I need to find another house just for you, just because it's like if I don't have one, I don't want you to go veering off and finding other business.
I know it. That's why I still keep on looking in different angles, different aspects, right? From packet listing to wholesalers to the realtors that had worked in the past. So those are ongoing. But the good thing about it right now, you don't need to work to find the deal as compared before because they know already that you are constantly looking. So people who have the deal or have the off-market deal or packet listing, they come to you, they send it to you, and then you evaluate it and you tell them upfront, like, okay, this is not fit for me, and so they move on.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So, how did it go when you're going through this hiring and firing process? Did you ever get discouraged or even just any other problems in general? Like, how did you help yourself to not get discouraged? Because I know that's also something that there'd be times where things get so stressful and you just kind of like, I don't want to do anything. How do you motivate yourself to just keep on going and kind of pass through that or, make it less stressful?
Yeah, for me, I don't feel stressed, but I guess my partners are feel stressed because they have to find us. But for me, I just continually meeting people and referrals as well too. Like the more referrals that I get, the more it helpful for me because sometimes like they it may those referrals may work with them but may not work with me or vice versa. There are people that are coming to me and they're not they it won't work with the other investors. So I guess it just set the criteria to know like what are the things that you are in common and what are the desired goal that you want to achieve. So for me it's not something like as stress. It's just like ongoing education of learning the behavior of people and learning to work with them. Because right now, I'm learning how to delegate because before I used to do it all myself. Like I used to manage my own property, but I'm getting to the point that I feel like overwhelmed, that I need help from others. So rather than like, doing all the self, I'd rather give it to others and have them, work on that, which they are good at it rather than me. So I want to focus on two important things that will bring more money and more jobs to my people. So I'd rather like, concentrate on finding the deals and funding the money, and all those managements can be like delegated to the right people who's really good at it.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Any other kind of problems that you've encountered that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so the problems in terms of like creating the system, I guess right now that's my number one challenge because as I scale up, like there's just like, paperwork that are piling up, things that needs to be followed up and deals that needs to be reviewed. So I come to the point that I'm looking for an assistant where I can train and delegate those things so that I could focus on reviewing the portfolio and then bringing it to the best people that could like, expand our business. So I guess that's the number one challenge because I set my goal this year at the early of January and I even posted to my social media that this time I would try to relax and think and I would not buy more. But here you go, like last February, March, I was like, on the brink of super hyper because I bought like three properties within 14 days closing, and it's not a straight closing. And there's just like, so many things going back and forth with the lawyers and the mortgage brokers. So I said, come to the point, okay, I need to do this now. And then there you go. I closed on last April and March for two properties. So I said, okay, come think June, I need to slow down and think and write my process and instructions so that I could train someone to do all those things that I can delegate to them. And I've been speaking to different colleagues of mine, and probably I'll be speaking with you as well too, because you have one. And I think that's the number one challenge that I'm having right now because it's such a difficult stage right now that you're scaling up more than you could ever imagine, but the system is not yet there.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the hardest part. And actually, I'll give you advice right on the spot on live because I
Yeah, I
always tell
love
this
it.
to people that always ask me actually how I did it with an assistant because I notice a lot of people have problems because I think a lot of people expect like you hire them and it's like as if they know what they're doing immediately,
Yes.
and it's not like that at all. And it's an assistant is someone like baby steps. So you like the way I did it was, especially because mine was didn't speak like English wasn't their first language and didn't know anything about real estate. And so for me, I had some specific things that were very important for me. And one of them was, and I mean, this part is me specific. So for other people, maybe different. But I looked for someone that when read their profile, that they were organized and like detail oriented was very important to me. And so this is like I was looking for skills in that kind of area. I didn't care about the experience in the sense of like real estate or even being an assistant or anything. Like I was actually specifically looking for like detail oriented and very organized person for specifically for me. And I did very baby steps. So I first, and it's funny because I hired this person off the bat 40 hours a week. It was like 40 hours, so full-time person. And I didn't even have full-time work at that time, which was the funny part, but it was more to help push me to just start giving work that I didn't need to do and that I could pass off to give myself more time for more important tasks. So I kind of like that. That's one thing, that a little tip that I feel like for people who are ready to go and you think that you don't have enough work for them. Because once you're paying them, you start finding things for them to do. And I realized very quickly how much I could get removed from my plate. But like you said, communication is huge. And so like that, I was very, very just one task at a time. So I started off with just posting my posts once a day. I think it was, I had to post it. And then I would just see how she would react, right? Okay, this is what I want posted, and, I need one done every day. And then I would see how she would work at it. And then also within all the social media. So it needs to go across all the social medias. And then once I felt like she got that working right, then actually her main focus was the networking events that I do. And she actually happened to start just before that. So same thing. I just like, once I felt like she was good at, for example, posting every day, then I gave her like another task. And then I would train her on that. And like, for example, the networking events. So I got her to get into my emails, for example, organize my emails. I specifically did that also for the fact of I wanted her to start reading the emails and kind of understanding what is real estate and understanding like what is happening and like understanding like what are receipts and what is this and asking me questions. Basically, I would also give them work that would make them ask me questions, so that I could see how much they understand of, what is being done, or what I'm doing. So I feel like those are very important to me. Like I try to do things to make people ask me questions, because I feel like when they ask me the questions, I can kind of know where their headspace is at. And like the communication, because especially when it's English is not their first language, I need to understand how she understands English, like how she interprets English, and she needs to understand how I'm speaking, right? It's like we both kind of have to understand each other, right? So that was another thing, like me learning to speak with her and her learning to understand me was also a very important part, because like that, sometimes I'll change my questions because I know she's not going to understand it in one way, and then I'll change it so that I can make sure, like, it's just learning each other, right? And like you said, being patient, because I can't say that I didn't have very many problems, but it's because of that. I was very like task oriented. I would give like 2-3 tasks and just kind of see how that went in the week, right? And we did daily meetings. Every morning we had meetings. How did it go that day? What are the tasks for today? What questions do you have? And I did that for about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, where we were having everyday meetings. And even actually it also started up again when she started getting into being involved in the networking events. We were having daily meetings just so that I want her to ask me questions. I would question, like, why did you do this? Like, why was it done this way? And then when she would explain it to me, I was like, oh, okay, so that I understand her thought process, so I know how to tell her what I actually want. And then I would, explain it to her. Okay, this is actually what I was looking for. This is what I want. Make sure you ask me questions all the time. I always say, ask me questions, ask me questions.
I have a follow-up question with you. Why her among all the other candidates that you have interviewed?
Was
Why
that
her?
like detail oriented and organized, and specifically in her profile, she had no experience of any kind. She was the very first person, it was her very first time. I am her very first hire. So she explained her job experience and it said that she was an accountant, that she creates procedures, and that she would manage teams, like something similar to that. It was basically things that she said, like she worked in an accounting firm, I think it was, and she created procedures. So again, because I'm an engineer, I've created procedures. I think she helped with building systems out. That's what it was, like process business systems. So she was really triggering questions because I would build in a programming. I build programs, but I'd build business processes for companies, and I'd have to organize companies. So so I just knew there were in those specific things that I would do, I knew that you have to be a certain way to be able to do that kind of work. So she was a person that created procedures, which I really liked. Because again, someone that's good at creating procedures, you're just naturally, if you're good at creating a document, that's kind of important. If you're good at creating procedures, that means you're a very procedures oriented person anyways. Yeah. And then because she worked in an accountant firm, I liked that because to me, I was just like, okay, you must be, again, organized. I feel like, I mean, being an accountant, you know, you're all about numbers and making sure, not that she was an accountant, but she wasn't an accountant, but just working in that kind of firm, it's a certain type of people that work there too, right? So it was just like these kind of things that, and I can't remember, there was something else that in the description that she said that showed that she's detail oriented. I can't remember. I think she had to create tasks or something, like task lists or something like that. So there was like these things that she said that I was like, immediately, I'm like, I want you. You know, like, because you read everyone else's things and they talk about like, oh, I do this, this, and this, like social media accounts. What are they? The managers, the social media managers. They're like, oh, I do this, 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 or that, and it was about the job. But in hers, I could talk. It was more about like in the way she was speaking, it was more about her skills as a person, which to me that's more important. Like I don't mind teaching someone how to, let's say, post a post in the way I wanted, or I don't mind teaching those things. But there's I prefer the people skills, like what's behind it, right? Like everything can always be taught. And so I wasn't like, oh, I need a social media manager. Because again, I really wasn't. I was looking more for assistant, and one of them was to help me manage my social media, but it was also a lot to help me. Another reason why, for example, I didn't hire a social media manager. A social media manager is very like, I will only do this and that's that. Like I was finding a lot of people that I only do this and that's it, right? Like, for example, she was very flexible, which is what I wanted someone to be able to kind of go across things. And she's just like, as long as you teach me, I don't care. And I'm like, amazing, because I don't mind teaching as long as we can get things going, right?
Yeah, and that's a good criteria as well too, because like for me, I have like a determined criteria already what I'm looking for. I guess the very challenge for me is to sit down and have the time to really like give instruction. So the person that I would be looking for as well, just like you, I'm very detail oriented. I do the data management of my company. I write work instruction and standard operating procedures. So probably I could relate to you and to the person that I would be hiring in the future, that they will be able to grasp it and I could just leave them alone and they just give me what needs to be done.
Exactly.
Thank you for that insight, Diana.
Yeah,
Because
no problem.
I have spoken to different people who have that as well too. And I said, what's your number one criteria and how do you assess that they are the right fit for that position that you're looking for? And take the time and find the time really to work on those, because it's not something that you just leave it there and do the thing. You really have to babysit and so that they can grasp quickly what you want to do.
Because I can tell you now, I only talk to her. We text message or WhatsApp message a lot, like if she needs something from me or whatever. But meetings, we only really have one meeting now a month, and that's after my networking event. And we just do a quick status report. Or for example, like right now we're doing a lot of changes in the business. So we're going to have like another meeting so we're having maybe 2 meetings a month now because we're making lots of changes. But it's because now I have trust in her now, right? Like I
Mhm.
trust her. I know exactly how she works. I know how to speak to her proper. I know how to speak to her so she knows what I'm looking for. She knows, like we both, like we can read, to say we read each other's minds now. We understand each other very well now, right? And that's because I babied her at the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
You
Like it's a
train her well.
very, yeah, it's very important to be really not on them, but
Mhm.
give them the attention to be able to do their job properly.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I will take that into consideration because I'm on the process of creating the set instruction and criteria for the selection so that you don't want to waste your time and you're able to find really the right candidate for that specific task that to be
Hmm.
given to them because I know it would be a relief. I heard so many good things about it. It's just the time to really find and take the time to really search on the right people.
Exactly, exactly. So for the viewers, for this kind of project that you've done, do you have like one or two tips for the viewers that you'd like to
Yeah,
give them?
yeah, actually I have so many tips, right? So the number one tip, not really like more on the technical know-how of the real estate. Always trust your gut whenever you're doing something. I find it most effective in my opinion. And second is don't wait too long. Do your own research. It's not something like analysis paralysis. Sometimes, when you have to make the decision, sometimes it's common sense, right? And you just see the overview. What's the point? You always look for the potential, what's gonna be, and don't look for the potential problem, but look for the potential solution and potential income that would be bringing in. And plus the thing is always I come to the point I always go to mindset training and to motivate myself, but at the same time meet different people. Always network because sometimes when you're looking for a partner and you find a partner that would fit you within your criteria, principles and values, not only they're so good at numbers, but something that you can work together for a long term, that would be great. And always have the passion to help people because you never know who you encounter with, but I guess you kind of create that greater communication and relationship that you can really help others as well. For me, I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. That's the number one thing. And I have diversified my portfolio to a lifestyle because yeah, it's not the number of doors, right? It's not the amount of money that's getting in. It's just life is so short. Yeah, you kind of think enjoy what you're doing and have the right lifestyle that you can go to the places that you bought and sometimes live there for a short term and then come back here and do your own stuff or do other things that you need to do, but at least it's minimal way of managing. It's more of feeling and enjoying what you have already created, a portfolio of generation of wealth.
100%. And last question, actually, because I can't remember. Do you still have a full-time job? Were you doing this and you're still working too? Or are you full-time real estate investor?
Yeah, every interview that I have, they always ask that. So I said and then this interview, oh, she would not ask that one. So I said, okay, I will answer that way, that one. I still have a full time job, and I just enjoy having a job because for me it's just so much easier to qualify for a mortgage and for the other things that I need to do because I'm still in the acquisition mode. I have a transition stage from being an active to a passive probably 2 to 3 years. So maybe once I transition to the passive, and that's the time that I will lay low and let's say I would decide, okay, let me retire myself and enjoy what I'm doing on the real estate side as a full-time investor. But for now, I will still continue acquiring property, and it's just so easy to acquire property when you have actually a T4.
Yeah. And and it's a lot of work though that you to be able to do both, right? I remember when I was doing both, oh my God, I had some really stressful days or
Mhm.
weeks that it was just exhausting.
I know, I know. And that's the reason why it's good to partners with everyone, like either even a passive partner or an active partner. I have a active partner who's a go-getter, and they just need my consultation. And I said, like, okay, here's the thing, do what you want to do and bring me the result. So those are the things that you are looking for a partner. And at the same time, there's a passive partner na, okay, I just want to buy these things. And then I just organize, okay, let's just buy it. And then refinance and then just build our portfolio. They're just like, as passive as you can, and they don't mind you until they get and refinance the money and move on to the next project. So I guess that's the way to delegate, not only to your power team, but also to your partners, right? Either an active partner or a money partner. Because I do enjoy both, act as a play for both sides, active or passive partner, either way, depending on the situation on the deal.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing your project and your insights. And we'll hopefully get to, maybe we'll have you on transformation time because you haven't been on transformation time.
I know. I think that's the one that we're trying to get into, right?
Yeah.
Remember when I was in Alberta last March, we're trying to like, okay, let's do it. And then once I was in Sudbury, it was just like a short time. I said, okay, maybe we'll find time someday.
Yeah, we will. Thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome to hear about your project. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see everyone in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.